Hello and welcome to the 7-minute late to start Morningscape podcast. I am your host, DJ Mitchell, here with Matt Moody. I guess, apologize. I thought I told Matt 9:15. I think what I said was 9 or 9:15 or 9:30, and then I tweeted it out at 9 for 9:15, and I assumed you knew.
I have not been on Twitter.
Okay, well, sometimes it's not by choice, and sometimes it is by choice. You're not on Twitter, because we can't always use it. But regardless, I've been sitting here since about 9:10 doing stuff, being like, where the heck is this kid? I also, you know what? I was having green screen fun waiting for you. I had a Airhead, a green one, and it just looked like I was eating the background. I really wish we could have got that on video. That would have been some really good content. Probably would have drove the numbers right to that 500 subscriber mark. Speaking of which, if you're listening to this on audio and you just want to take 25 seconds and go to the YouTube and go to our YouTube page and click subscribe. We are very close to 500, which would be very helpful. Matt, what were you going to say?
I have no idea what I was going to say. I just am on your Twitter page because I'm wrapping up the final couple teams, and it seems you made some tweets today that included me in them, and I also did not see those. So I deeply apologize for not giving you the sort of engagement that your great tweets deserve.
Yeah, I didn't tag you on one of them, but I thought it was kind of funny.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's true. It's definitely true.
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that you've locked yourself in your basement for 9 months of the year and come out only when hockey's by choice, right? I don't need to do that. I don't need to be like Mr. Queef or whatever his name is and lock
I don't
people
know.
in.
Okay, what are you talking about there? That's what I don't know what you're talking about.
Mr. Beast. I don't watch his videos. I just am saying like he's like the most famous YouTuber in Mr. Beast, so I just change his name every time. It's a bit I made that I don't think anyone understands.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I follow now.
So today I went with Mr. Butt. I feel like he probably sees it and then gets mad and like kicks air and says, that guy's got me again. That's what I assume probably happens. Anyways, to get back on track while you finish up things, I will talk about Tuesday's slate. You wrote a whole bunch about it already though, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So you'll talk about that when you're done feverishly clicking in players. The Chicago Blackhawks put everything in a blender. Surprisingly, it wasn't working out before, and that is to change that right now. So I'm just going to go over a little bit of, actually, I have it on I could probably pull up my phone faster. I'm not going to go over my entire lineup from Tuesday, but I feel like it's a perfect example of doing exactly what you shouldn't do because of kind of holding yourself to so let's go all the way there. So obviously I wasn't on Tuesday's podcast, but if I was, I probably would have really, really talked up Winnipeg 1. I felt like that was kind of the best stack on the slate, in my opinion. I really would have probably, that was the one I wanted to get in. Probably no matter what. I was trying really hard to play Montreal Winnipeg. You really couldn't make it work. And instead of saying to myself, okay, Winnipeg is going to be owned. I mean, again, they came in way more owned than I expected. I think most people would agree with that. Like, 13, 14%, Shifley 16.5. It's that range for Connor, and even like 11, 10, 12% for Velarde. Definitely came in higher owned than I expected. But regardless of that, let's just even work off the principle they were only going to be 8%. That's still decent ownership on that size of a slate. And what I did around it was play two-mans that were unbelievably chalky in kind of their entire all together. I tried to play them a little bit unique. I feel like I ended up just playing worse options than I should have. I played Bennett, Seth Jones, which combined ownership was 50%. Hagel and Bjorkstrand. And even though Bjorkstrand wasn't with Hagel at 5-on-5, was probably going to be on the power play, and they were 11-7, and I stuck with it. Well, Bjorkstrand was clearly minimum salary, absolutely donkey chalk. Everyone played him. He goes for a 0. I mean, it was a good play. It was a bad result. But I really think it's the perfect lineup to go over as far as what not to do, like I said, because it is forcing something in that doesn't fit with a bunch of absolute chalk. Instead of, even if you think it's the best stack, and even if it has any level of ownership, like fitting around it, the chalk of the night just feels like you're going to get into and I'm not going to say the word wrong, a cumulative ownership-ish situation that is never going to work in your favor to win first. Like, you're just never winning first with this lineup. Even if this line, it could have been cash, right? Like, a lot of broke the wrong way on me, but you're never winning with this build. Like, what are you building for in GPPs? I'll stop there, Matt. I'll let you talk on my lineup and maybe anything you thought about the Tuesday slate.
Yeah, I did not have fun on Tuesday. I lost a significant amount of money. And yeah, serves as a pretty hard reset for the rest of the year. You know, like, oh, 200K to first. It's great. We're all having a good time. And then the doldrums of March come and baseball starts later this month. And the prize pools are already bad. And there's no more big contests to look forward to. So yeah, it kind of marks the end of the year. But here we are, trudging forward with our 10K to first prize pools in the afterglow. Yeah,
And
I don't know. You talked about your lineup, whatever.
Yeah, I think, again, like, let's win it all back, but like, let's not, like, I feel like the way I built was playing the absolute no balls, completely just like, if there's a stack you love and you're like, there's no way around me not playing this, and you just can't get a build that works, you have to abandon it. Like, you have balls, get away from what's comfortable, because I feel like maybe I'm just me, because I know that I just can suss out the donkey chalk like no one else. Just absolutely do not stick to one thing. Just to, like, just get away from what you're building and try to put together something that can actually win $10,000 or 20,000 or whatever the main prize is, because that is a very bad way to build. Matt, talk to me about your article.
Yeah, if you missed it, I wrote up on moods.bf.com the 555 contest with 200K to first, also 100K to second, and 50K to third. So not like a box of knives for not finishing first like some contests. So you can check that out over there. I mean, obviously, the full recap includes listening to last pod, because like that's where we went over the entire slate for 90 minutes. Actually, I think it was 95 or 100 minutes. But basically, results wise, I turned 18 entries in the 555 into about $2,500. So pretty shit. And I was mostly in on Nashville. My best team on the screen was a Montreal 1 plus Nashville build. And the one thing that I think is a good takeaway, just victory lap, whatever you want to call it, the sites did not have Nick Blankenburg as first power play, and we talked about it on the podcast because we knew that was going to be the case because of the prior game that Nashville had played. So, a minor thing, but getting a 3,500 Nick Blankenburg on the power play one against the Sharks for 4%, it's just insane. I mean, I compared him directly to Jake McCabe on the pod, which I remember. I was like, yeah, this guy's like Jake McCabe, what? And like, so I understand that, like, oh, you kind of talk shit about him. Like, why did you go all in on him? I played 13 of my 18 lineups with him, but like, to me, it was an exposure to the Nashville power play that I really wanted, and it was so clearly not going to be significantly owned because the sites just had it wrong. Daily Faceoff, Roto Grinders. I'm sure Stochastic didn't have it right if he's only 4% owned, given the context of the slate. So,
I will say two things on that. Number one is, and I told you this, I actually, when I tried to build not with Winnipeg, I had this exact build. I didn't have Sissons in, and I had, I think I went down a little bit over, and I took someone over Moreau, but I stuck with Blankenburg. I thought that was one of the only smart things I did on the entire slate, obviously. And I honestly, like, it didn't work out with Dostal. Like, obviously, looking at that lineup, you see that Dostal kind of got there just because of saves, but in reality was not anywhere near a winner. But that's why I couldn't stick with it, because I'm like, I want to play Winnipeg and I don't want to play Dostal in a very, very tough matchup. But again, like, this lineup could have won. This is a $200,000 winning lineup on this slate. It didn't, of course. Like, Washington went for an enormous amount of points, but this was a winning lineup, and I had this build exactly with two flips. I could have come back on it and put in Sissons. He was a good play, and I convinced myself I had to play Winnipeg 1. I just, I'm still kicking myself, and I just think that, like, this is a really good encapsulation of like how you can build the win. I think this, the winning lineup, of course, could win because it did, but I honestly think that, like, the one thing that I never even came back to was playing Washington 2. I don't know why. I feel like there was a couple of times where I looked at Washington and I just couldn't find what fit again easily. Like nothing felt good other than the OV line, which was, in my opinion, too expensive. And I just convinced myself I wasn't doing any of it when, just a very frustrating slate. I could spin in circles about it because the more I looked at it, the angrier I got. But those are the best slates to recap, I think. When you really feel like your process wasn't correct, I think those are the ones you have to review the most.
Yeah, well, fortunately for all the listeners, we will be getting DJ Slate recap at the end of this podcast. So you don't even have to wait until after the slate for DJ to recap the slate for you. But anyway, you should check out the full thing if you haven't already. If you're subscribed, it'll be in your email inbox. If you're not, check it out, moods.beehive.com. Obviously, the most recent post on there. And make sure you do subscribe. I'm hoping later, probably Thursday, maybe Friday morning, I hope to post my Zamboni write-up where I write about strategy for the Zamboni contest over on Underdog, running 100 sims of last year's playoffs, including fantasy point outcomes and advancement and all those sorts of things to figure out what works, what doesn't work when drafting teams for the playoff best ball contest. I think there'll be some really cool things in there that I was surprised to see. So, hopefully you'll check that out as well. But anyway, let's get into the Thursday slate. We do have 9 games to cover. Anything else before we get to those, DJ?
No, we spent plenty of time with me making fun of my lineup. We can move on to the next slate where I will not play as poorly. We start with Florida at Toronto. Florida coming off of a tough loss in Boston, a very entertaining game. 2 teams that are, I think, in theory, could face in the playoffs. Probably be round 2 at this point. I don't think both of them are going to finish outside of first, but a very competitive, great matchup as far as watching. As far as DFS is concerned, I don't know if I could squint and find a way. It's a 5.5. It's basically a pick 'em. There's cheap-ish Florida getting, slightly creeping up. Seth Jones goes, way up in price after being the second highest owned player on the entire slate last slate. Probably to a price that he almost deserves, if maybe not quite. But yeah, I'm finding this game to be one that I have tentative interest in for a couple different reasons, but most of it's on Toronto. And at the end of the day, am I really stacking against Florida? I feel like the answer is just no. So I'll let you talk a little bit about Florida, though.
Yeah, I mean, I have no interest in the Toronto side of this matchup. Toronto's just been giga dog shit. Their 5-on-5 play is absolutely cratered. So I'll pull up the sheet in a second because I'm still working through it. But
the price reflects that, I think, more that and when, to me, it's it's not gonna last forever. I don't know. I'm not saying that I'm playing Toronto. I'm really, what I'm saying here is I'm not going to end up having this game because it's just not the game I think I need to overexpose myself to and take all my cap away on. But talk me into Florida. Try to talk me into Florida.
Well, I mean, the reason to be talked into Florida is Mackie Samoskevich remains 4,400 on the top power play. And yeah, the 5.5 on the road, I don't think people will jam it. Seth Jones' value is gone, so it's not going to funnel ownership in that direction. And you're basically looking at a John Tavares matchup, which I don't think is very imposing. Barkov and Matthews, the showdown of the ages. I don't think they're going to use Scott Lawton as a shutdown guy with Max Domi on his wing. I guess that's the only risk factor that you'll run into if you're really trying to get granular about this game environment. But yeah, I really don't see much reason to get off the Mackey train if you've been on it. Lastly, you could argue that Boston's been playing a lot better. The ownership's going to be outlandish. And so I didn't play it and it got there. It wasn't part of the winning lineups necessarily, but I write about this. You didn't really need New Jersey 1 to win lastly. It just so happens that the optimizers, when you told it, hey, I want a Washington 2 team, said, oh, here's how much salary you have left. Let me just jam in the highest projected team. And it just so happened to be, New Jersey 1 plus Luke Hughes. And they did just enough to get by. So that's not really you can't play chalky Florida and win. They were very clearly combinations that included Mackie Samoskevich plus Washington 2 that would have won that the field just didn't get to because, they're stacking for the most part. So Samoskevich had a great night. Sam Bennett, obviously not so much. Seth Jones, just bad yet again. Guys, I'm worried that Seth Jones might not actually be good and worth 5,700. We will certainly see though, because this is going to be his team for a while. It seems like he got moved up to play alongside Gus Forsling with no Ekblad, so very clearly top power play minutes for Seth Jones. I guess what I'm trying to say is it's sink or swim on Seth Jones here. I don't think though you need to be betting on Seth Jones being a guy who's going to swim given the role to play a 4,400 Mackie Samoskevich. Maybe you do to play Barkov Reinhardt for 13 or 14K combined. But Samoskevich and Bennett still remains wildly underpriced for their current role. By the way, here is the rainbow chart for this 9-game slate. Obviously, Florida looks really strong, like I was saying. I mean, it's even the goals against, not just the underlyings for Toronto are bad. They're basically no longer getting bailed out by goaltending. And it's coming via shot attempts, expected goals. And Florida, of course, is creating those as well. So I'm not letting one down game against Boston, who I highlighted as being a bit better and looking pretty solid over the weekend, going to dissuade me from this Florida side. Elsewhere on the slate, just as a quick high-level view, it does seem like it's not a super high-scoring slate for me. Every team is green. Like, I think even lastly, it was a lot of green here. And you still see a decent number of teams in green, but also a lot of teams in red that we just didn't have before. But also teams with good matchups, Boston heading into Ottawa, St. Louis heading into Pittsburgh, Vegas heading into Columbus. Also Columbus the other way looks okay too. And then LA hosting Washington and San Jose hosting Chicago both look pretty solid based on the expected goals index. Check out the Discord or the YouTube video if you want to see some of the other colors as far as Corsi's and actual goals and all that other fun stuff. But game of the night from an expected goal pace standpoint looks like Vegas Columbus. And let's get back into the game by game breakdown. Anything else you want to add on Florida?
No, I definitely get the play. I just feel like if I'm playing Florida, I honestly think I'm going like 4-man Reinhardt, Barkov, Samoskevich, Bennett or something. Like I don't think I'm dipping my toes in on, and you can one off Mackie, I guess, but I just don't think that's the way I'm building on this slate. On the Toronto side, it does feel like, I agree, like they've played very, very bad. The prices are reflecting of that. Nylander to begin March was 8,200. He is now down to 69. It's a really tough matchup. That also is consideration here. But I think he can turn it back on at any moment. Marner was up at 8K. He's down to 6,500. They've played terrible. I get the pricing that comes along with how bad they've played. Are they that bad of hockey players? Are they just, they're just done now? The season's over. They're just, no, they're I just don't know if I'm willing to just like not consider this at all, because I think everyone's going to say, well, look at the game logs, look at the recent production. It's not there. They're still playing Austin Matthews 22 minutes a night. And Austin Matthews is going to be at one of his lower ownerships against a Florida team that is now has to play Seth Jones 28 minutes a night. Again, like it's kind of, I think, convincing yourself it's a good play. But on the same token, I think the entire slate's going to look at Toronto and just go, nope, thank you. I'm not taking a top line in Toronto that's cheap as it's been in a while, all power play correlated. No, thank you. I'm good on that front. I think I'm at least intrigued enough to consider it because, again, I think it's going to be really low owned at very condensed pricing. But you have to get over the thought of, man, they've played like, as I believe you called it, giga dog shit, which is true.
Yeah. And this is very specific to me, not a Matthews problem. But you look across the matchup against Utah the other day, for example. I mean, you saw Hayton go into that Tavares line, eat it for lunch. The McBain line goes in the Lawton. Actually, the Stenlund line goes in the Lawton too. I mean, the entire team just ate Lawton for lunch. Like, he's not good. And obviously the fourth line is also just a non-factor here. So, like, if you're telling me this Florida team is going to have a 2.7 team total, yeah, I think I'm interested. Is really sort of the angle I'm taking. Yeah, if Mackie Samoskevich is going to be 20% owned again, yeah, I'm not that interested. But like, because again, I do kind of respect Toronto, and I don't think they'll be this bad forever. But like right now, last 10 games, John Tavares expected goals against of 3 per 60. Actual goals against right around that mark too. He's rocking a 39% expected goals mark. Like this is just not a good line, and John Tavares is not playing well. So like, yeah, I'm happy to take some Sam Bennett and Sam Miscavige against it when they have a lot of floor and I think upside as well. So let's keep things going though. There's several games to get to, of course. Ottawa hosting the Boston Bruins. Boston is now fixed. They traded Brad Marchand, and now they're good. They beat Florida 2 days after beating the Tampa Bay Lightning. So yeah, we're all singing Kumbaya, and Don Sweeney's the greatest GM in NHL history. The Boston Bruins, are they making the playoffs, Mr. DJ?
No.
Oh, okay.
Not definitely. I'm trying to remember what Money Puck had him at. It was something around like 6%, I think. So it was something very low, at least lower than I thought it would be. Let's take a look here. Playoff odds. The Boston Bruins to make the playoffs, 8.5. Okay, I thought it was like 6 or 7, 8.5%. So no, I think they know better than I could convince you of, and I don't think losing Marchand actually made them better. I think that they're just not as bad as people thought, and when their goaltending shows up and they play at least reasonably well in front of him, I'd say I'm not going to say great, but just fine. That we can win games still. Like they're not a complete AHL roster. So regardless, it's an interesting team. I mean, there's punts in this game that feel like you could take a look at. At the end of the day, though, I really have kind of been a noted Ottawa respecter. I'm not going to say I'm to the moon and back on this Ottawa Senators team, but I would say I'm at the very least, I respect them enough maybe not to go to the Pastrnak well. I do think that I don't think it's going to come as a surprise, actually. I don't think that I'd play Boston without Pastrnak. Probably a crazy thing to say. You're highlighting Elias Lindholm. Yeah, I saw the expected fantasy. I've seen the shot numbers have come up a good tick, and like I get it. It just kind of feels like the way to win with the Bruins is not put together correctly right now, and you could just one off Pastrnak and take a look at Mason Lohrei for sure if you wanted to pair it with him. But talk to me about Elias Lindholm. He's now fixed.
I'm trying to figure out what the hell is going on with him, but yeah, it looks like the top line is no longer perfectly power play correlated because they took off Saka and put on Elias Lindholm. And that's because he's actually been super productive as of late, apparently. Over his last 10 games, he's rocking a 4.8 expected goal mark, only had 1 goal to show for it. So you'll see the actual game logs do not reflect his opportunities. So that's a giant, green flag, I guess, if you will. Morgan Geeky's the exact same price as a Pastrnak pair. So like maybe you just don't play Lindholm over Geeky, but I think you can at least consider it given the run that Lindholm's on, and like the fact that, I mean, it'll be completely unknown if Lindholm goes for 2 goals, and guess who's going to be on the ice when an empty net's happening? It's going to be Elias Lindholm. So like, you're talking about a guy who very clearly could get there, independent of David Pastrnak, like not even thinking, oh, like he luck boxes 2 5-on-5 goals. It's just like, okay, Pasta and Lindholm combined for a power play goal, and Lindholm gets the empty netter, and Pasta just goes deep shit otherwise. Like, yeah, you're looking completely fine. I think the pricing is out of whack, but I would take a look at it in betting circles. Like if there's anything that you can find, that's probably the main indicator there. I'm not super interested in this game as a whole. I think Ottawa's just my St. Louis East, where I just don't have much interest in any of their games. But of course, you covered. If you're not playing David Pastrnak, what's the point? Vinny Lettieri, I think he's a fine punt, but nothing more than that.
Yeah, we have also every player on Boston that you might consider. You do have to remember as you switch over to Ottawa that this is very much a revenge narrative spot for Linus Ullmark, who will be in net finally. Last time he was not healthy to play against Boston. I don't think he's played them yet, but maybe I'm wrong on that. I really do think that this is where we're going to start to find some of our donkey chalk of the night. I think people will, number one, be a little bit more keen to playing teams that are in very must-win situations. Number two, there is a new power play one, as you've already highlighted, but it was Cousins and Batherson with Sanderson, as well as Stützle Brady. So no more Giroux on that top unit, but that top line is tough. 8K for Brady is not easy. It's fine. It's a totally fine play, especially if you're playing Stützle and Sanderson. That's going to get up a lot of salary cap, but Cousins, Batherson, and Sanderson's much cheaper. That Cousins line scored at 5-on-5. Cousins had a goal. They've been productive enough. The minutes are okay. I'm not going to say too bad, but everyone knows that Batherson has at least a good finishing ability himself. So I think that line 2 could be a bit of your donkey chalk of the night. I'm not going to quote myself entirely on it. There's plenty of games to get to, but that does feel like a very comfy click. And for that reason, I think I'm just going to not do it. I think if I'm going to play it, I might just try to get in Brady if I can. But in reality, I don't know how interested I really am in jamming Ottawa on this slate. I think we said, Boston's really not that bad.
Yeah, if we're saying this game is a 5.5 with Ottawa's pretty strong favorites,
-192, yeah, big favorites. I think that Cousins line is going to be.
Yeah, we're talking a 3.2 ish total on that mark. So, that's not nothing. That's not as insignificant. Certainly the rainbow chart does not agree with any of it. I would also argue the eye test doesn't agree with any of it because the Ottawa Senators do not score goals. They're I think they've improved dramatically over the last couple weeks, and they're still, league average. So I am not excited by it. Brady at 8K, and like you're saying, if you're really playing Cousins, Batherson and expecting them to really pay off for 10.4K, I would honestly just add Brady on it over David Perron. Just do it, I think, because Brady can get there on his own. Even without all the goals.
Just poops his pants. I think. I agree. I definitely think that. Well,
you're hoping for 40 shots. I think if you're playing
you're hoping for 40 shots. Right.
But Jake Sanderson's been good. We've talked about him a bunch. Thomas Chabot continues to be productive. I prefer Sanderson, but I don't hate the idea if you're playing Cousins, Batherson, and just playing Chabot. The power play is not that big a deal to me, because Chabot can, pick up blocks. They'll skate at 5-on-5, of course. So no real issues with it. I just, again, if you're saying it's going to be owned and there's a 3.1 or 3.2 team total, I think that's kind of correct. And I don't really want a piece of Dylan Cousins here. He's been fine, but not anything that I'm willing to fight ownership for. Interesting spot in the next game, Tampa against Philadelphia. Nikita Kucherov left the game, did not play the third period against Carolina. Cooper did not have an update for him after the game. And this morning they called up Cam Atkinson from the minors. So I think we're on significant worry of Nikita Kucherov. If he misses, I have no idea what Tampa's going to do. I would guess they play Gensel, Point, and actually, I don't even know. Because it seems like Cooper wants to keep Hagel, Sorelli, Gord, Bjorkstrand, Point, Gensel together, or Point Kucherov more specifically. But if Kucherov is out, does he make a power line of Hagel, Point, Gensel? I don't think so, given, he also coached Hagel, Sorelli at the freaking the Four Nations face-off, which saved hockey. And so I think that's just a given in his mind. Maybe Bjorkstrand goes to line 1 with Point and Gensel at 4K. If that happens, that would be kind of fun. But man, if Kucherov misses, are we just wheels up once again on the Philadelphia Flyers to get punished and punished hard?
I think we could just be wheels up on not playing this game potentially.
But DJ, don't you know of our Lord and Savior?
John Tortorella revenge game because he won the Stanley Cup in Tampa. Therefore, our Lord and Savior John Tortorella is going to coach the game of his life. So he gets really every player's on the table. Then, are you talking Michkov though?
Yes. By the way, I again, don't ban me, YouTube. I was watching this live, and I actually posted in the Discord, how the hell did Couturier not score? This is a full line goal that on your screen, if you're watching it, an impossible save by Matthew Highmore on a wide open goal for Sean Couturier.
Yeah.
I did not see this until this afternoon, and I was just triply angry about how I lost like all the money stacking Philly last night, because on Tuesday, well, actually, let's finish talking about Tampa first, because in reality, it's almost a certainty now that they go 11-7 again. If Kucherov misses, obviously, keep an eye out for that. But in that case, Brandon Hagel is a fantastic play at 6,600. I think that's better than Point Gensel, in all honesty. And does that mean you play Hagel with Cirelli, with Nick Paul, if that's who he's lined up with at 5-on-5? Like, I honestly think the answer might be no. And you just play Hagel and say that, oh, he's the creator now. He's being Kucherov light. And yeah, he's not Nikita Kucherov, but he's damn good and he will shoot. So I'm fine as a one-off. I'd be fine with him plus Victor Hedman. But if Kucherov plays, keep in mind that Bjorkstrand will be on the top power play and not Brandon Hagel. So a very hit or miss situation with Brandon Hagel. DJ, any final Tampa thoughts?
I just Brandon Hagel must go on the ice on the power play and just the whole time be saying like, I hate John Cooper, and he must hear him and then does not put him out there. Like, I do not understand what their aversion is to him being on the top power play. They'll put anyone else there, including Oliver Bjorkstrand. It just doesn't matter. And again, I know the answer in reality is like his role just doesn't exactly what they need there, or what. I just he's such a good hockey player. I do not understand, but they refuse to do it.
DJ, you ever heard of a guy named Steven Stamkos?
No.
Well, when
he retired,
when you picture Steven Stamkos, what stands out about that picture to you on the Tampa Bay Lightning?
Shooting from a certain spot on the ice on the power play.
Yes, and what form would you say those shots tend to take?
Slap?
Yes, off of
left.
Okay, what happens directly before the shot? Is he holding the puck? A pass.
No, a pass from Kucherov.
Yes. And so how would you say Brandon Hagel should slap shot a puck off of a Kucherov pass?
It's going to be really hard if Kucherov doesn't play.
Okay, imagine a world where Nikita Kucherov is playing.
I'm guessing he's the wrong-handedness is where you're going with all of this, which I know the answer is, like, why can't he play somewhere else? Like, why did he have to play there? I get
because they gave Jake Gensel $9.5 million to
okay,
do that.
I know. It just makes me mad. Can I be mad?
No, I actually, no, you may not be mad.
Okay. My point is, I don't think, not my Braden point, by the way, as everyone laughs hysterically into stitches, is that I just feel like you don't have to play Tampa. They're still super expensive, other than Hagel. Like, you're playing Hagel, and you're basically saying he has to get there at 5-on-5. And now you're saying, you don't know if you have to play his line mates. And I'm just like, no, just don't do this. Like, Philadelphia is boring. They have one line that's any good. I know their goaltending is a train wreck. And again, that's the only reason I feel like I could convince myself to take a look here, is that Tampa's been good and the goaltending in Philly is awful, but I'm not playing that way. So I think I'm fading Tampa no matter what. I'm going to let everybody else try to coerce their way and figure it out and put it together. And no, I'm good. I'm good on that front. We can talk about Philly if you'd like. I mean, the correct take by you, Michkov and Couturier, and then it just didn't get there. Okay. Ottawa didn't do it. But yeah, go on.
In your wildest dreams, did you have Michkov playing 22 minutes and Couturier playing 20 minutes before that Ottawa game? Like, was that even in your range of outcomes? Like, possibly.
I would, again, if you would have told me, I know it. I mean, I'm looking at it, but I guess what my point would be is I never would have thought Couturier would have played 20 minutes. I could see them just down and just forcing, like, Torts could do anything and I wouldn't be surprised. So if he was just like, all right, Michkov played 25 minutes because we had to teach him a lesson about playing 25 minutes. And okay, of course you did. Why not? But actually seeing Couturier get 20 was pretty crazy. Yeah, I'm going to give you that one.
Yeah, I think that rocks. I think that's really
No, it
cool
does.
that we get a 5,600 Matvei Michkov against a Tampa team that, not been very good lately. Like they've gotten blown out by Boston and Carolina. Like, maybe not quite on the class, or maybe a class above Michkov at this point, but like their defense not looking stellar from any perspective. Nikita Kucherov could be out, which means, like we're literally getting more Cam Atkinson minutes or whatever the fuck. Like, I think this is a super interesting spot with the context in mind that I think Sean Couturier is a very good play, because if he's going to play 20 plus minutes at 4,200, like I don't think people will click him, even if they are clicking on Michkov. So we're just obviously hoping that the lines stay together. Now, Couturier, Michkov, like they've been awesome together. I pulled it up on the last show. Like no matter how you slice it, they're outscoring their opposition. They're not allowing a ton of chances. Like it's all sustainable production from these guys. So I think that one of my flag plants is once again going to be freaking Michkov, and just hoping that I guess a defenseman on the back check or a forward on the back check doesn't just steal 20 points out of my pocket because he decides to get a stick on a shot into an empty net. Their power plays are a little annoying, but in the empty net situation, by the way, Sean Couturier was the net front on that unit. So it's very possible that we see Forster, Cates, Michkov, Konechny, Risto broken up and, replaced with something more fun for us, like Couturier, Michkov, Konechny, plus whoever. So a lot to pay attention to, but all in all, it's the Michkov show. He's 5,600. Like this is just an egregious price tag. He's been awesome. So I'm just once again lining up for the Philadelphia Flyers. Let's keep progressing. We did have one comment that I wanted to at least highlight. If Tim's still hanging out, he says, "Sup guys, just want to say I appreciate the time and work you guys spend on hockey." And I will say that appreciation is mutual. I appreciate anyone who spends an hour to 90 minutes listening to us talk about hockey and whatever other bullshit we come up with during this time frame around the nucleus of daily fantasy hockey. So thank you, Tim, and thank you to everyone out here hanging out. Next game up, we have St. Louis and Pittsburgh. DJ, what are your thoughts on the St. Louis Blues? And are the St. Louis Blues making the playoffs, DJ?
Probably not. Let's not get carried away. I do not think they're going to get there. I know I think you have a bet on them, right, to make the playoffs.
I do.
Yeah, seems unlikely. I actually don't even know how. I didn't look at the money puck on them. I feel like it's worse, but maybe not. Doesn't matter. I'm just going to start by saying I actually think the Blues are very much in play. I feel, and again, wait till tomorrow. Let's look at ownership. Let's see what the rest of the crowd is getting on. But it just kind of feels like you got Ottawa 2 and you have St. Louis 1 or 2. Of course, the power play now, same as last game, -1 change, but Thomas, Kyrou, Holloway, Busnevich, and instead of Shen, who was their last game as a 5-man forward, they're going to Cam Fowler at 3,500. I think we have to discuss him. I know Matt's going to tell us not to do it, but might consider it. I feel like in my heart of hearts, at the end of the day, the cards are going to flip over. I'm going to have Hyman, Holloway, Kyrou, and Fowler in my lineup. I might even just throw in Robert Thomas as well because I'm not a gutless coward. That might be one of my favorite stacks of the night. I think this Pittsburgh team absolutely stinks out loud. They rely on just Sidney Crosby and pray their goaltending, which has finally, I guess, figured out how to stop the puck. Tristan Jarry back, best puck playoffs. If you still have him, he is just nuking out of nowhere. Will that last forever? Is he fixed? Is it just, there it is? No, probably not. But at the end of the day, I think that this is actually a really, really good spot on a side that I don't think people are going to play a 4-man St. Louis. Call me crazy.
Given that Mitch came into this show and asked one question, I'm guessing he's almost on the clock or something. Very early, Mitch, but I'm pretty sure that the answer is just don't take 3. 1 or 2 doesn't really matter. Obviously, make sure that 1 is on a 6 stack or something, but like the data is showing that 1 or 2 doesn't really matter, and that 3 is sort of where you run into bad teams.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else you wanted to add, DJ? Based
Oh
on
no, I was
your
going to jump
experience?
on that too, but
Okay.
I was going to jump on that. I think that most of my builds will probably be 2, but if you take a, if you're giga stacking, you get to a 6-man and you have 1 goalie, like it doesn't matter. That has to win. So, and like people make the argument, oh, what if this goalie ends up sucking? And it's like that team doesn't win then. Like that's the point of the NHL playoffs. That's annoying is the goalie basically can win it for you or lose it for you. So I have no problem with 1. I definitely have a problem with 3. Back to the St. Louis Blues. Again, I'm just going to say it's one of my favorite stacks of the night. Holloway, Kyrou, Thomas, and Fowler, even though it's not fully correlated. I could even throw out Fowler and maybe run 4 forwards. Like I'm saying, I really don't respect this Pittsburgh team. The numbers I feel like are more favorable than they should be even, but they again, I feel like they've been a bit bailed out by goaltending. Throw up the rainbow chart for me quick. I feel like this game didn't profile super well.
Yeah, I've got bad news for you about the rainbow chart. And it's that every game with the St. Louis Blues is an unmitigated disaster from a pace perspective. The expecteds look okay in terms of expected goals, but you look at the shot attempts and it's just awful. I mean, that's what the Blues do. The actual goals are also quite bad. I don't think I'm too interested in the St. Louis, looking decent, expected goals wise. There's just like, even if you do get it right, I'm not sure that you can say, oh, the power play 1 is guaranteed to get the job done. And so for the Blues, it's like, well, is it Holloway or Kyrou getting there? Okay, 1 is 10.5K, or is it Thomas? Sorry, is it Holloway, Kyrou, or Buchnevich Thomas? One's 10.5, the other's 11. Are you going to play all 4? I don't know. Like, it's just not a team that I want to go to the mat for when I don't think that they have, a 29 shot on goal game in their arsenal. And Sundqvist, Bolduc, hell, Toropchenko has blown up for, I think, 8 shots the other day against Dallas. Like, they get contributions from up and down their lineup. So I'm a little bit skeptical that St. Louis is sort of the team that I want to like be overstacking. So maybe a mini stack of one of these top 2 lines, but I think the ownership will get there. So I'm worried. Obviously, Cam Fowler too worries the hell out of me. If he's going to be 11, 12, 15%, like I just don't want any part in that. He's just as likely to get you 0 as he is to get you, 8. So I don't feel like I'm missing much there. On the Pittsburgh front, you mentioned Tristan Jarry. He's back. He's doing great things in net for them. Doesn't matter. All my best buck teams are dead. My 20% Tristan Jarry. Literally, I don't have any teams in the semifinals. So just nothing left. Nothing left for me. But of course, I was always right. The Tristan Jarry is the best puck winning goaltender. Otherwise, I think Tommy Novak is day to day. So he could play, but are you really stacking Pittsburgh 2? They are going to be like 11K even with Novak, so I guess that's an option. Pittsburgh 1, Sid did pretty well last time out. That line's 19.3. I'm not getting there. I don't know. I'll be interested to see if ownership does come in on Russ, Crosby, Raquel, because their price tag's a bit lower than usual. But DJ, any interest in the Crosby line?
I'm not going to have it. Just too expensive for me on the slate. I understand the play. Like I don't really respect the Blues a metric ton defensively either, but I think they're at least formidable enough. And like you said, the pace here isn't great, and that is pretty expensive. So I'm probably not going to get there. Yeah. I feel like every time that we just completely ignore Evgeny Malkin is the time he ends up going for, his 30-40 burger. Doesn't happen often, once or twice a year, but I do think he's kind of always interesting, and his line mate, like Tomasino can play. Like, I mean, Heinen is an NHL player probably at least, but Tomasino can create. I could see that being at least an option here, but in reality, I'm probably not going there. I wish there was maybe a bit more pedigree to this prospect that they got from Utah. Vladislav, I'm not even going to try it. Matt, have at it if you'd like. He's getting a ton of run, but not well in the last game, at least against Vegas. We finally got a ton of run. Don't know if there's enough here to really bite on though. But if you're looking for nearly
did Ryan Shea get hurt during that game, or because I noticed Ryan Shea's week to week, and I thought he was in, but
he didn't play. No.
Okay. So
he ends up getting the bump and plays regular shifts with Chris Letang and 22 minutes. No power play, of course. He was on the penalty kill, I believe, and they got scored on like immediately. So maybe he sticks, maybe he doesn't. But
they just don't want to play that Graves Simmons pairing. Yeah, Kolyachonok, interesting. I think it might be even Kolyachonok, but whatever. Again, not my name, so whatever. I'm out here dissing cancer survivors. I'm out here, just saying Russian last names don't matter. I'm just all sorts of villain this week, so whatever. Come at me, God. Strike me down. Kevin Hayes, another value option.
Oh, sorry. I think please. I was trying to help.
Yes, please. I don't know. I'm not getting anywhere on Pittsburgh, so let's just keep going. Vegas at Columbus, like we just showed, a very strong looking rainbow chart for this game. I think Vegas is going to be very interesting because the absences of Howden and Barbashev were both described as personal. Howden was for the birth of a child. I think we saw someone on Vegas miss multiple games for the birth of a child while the team was on the road. I could be making that up, but I don't remember who, but basically Brett Howden's not hurt or anything. He just missed last game because of childbirth. He could very well meet the team in Columbus and play. Barbashev, we don't know what the personal situation was, but not knowing anything, it's well, if he's not hurt, then I think I'm just going to project him in. Vegas lost to Tristan Jarry. They've just lost their last game. So I'm not committed to Victor Olofsson line one. I'm not committed to him even being in the lineup necessarily. If Barbashev and Howden are both playing, obviously it's likely he is, but I guess I just don't want to be here projecting Victor Olofsson line one when we don't know the status of Barbashev in particular. But also, of course, Brett Howden matters too here. So Eichel obviously is in play. I think the plays here, though, are Dorofeev and Tomas Hertl. That combination is going to run you 12.1K. Brandon Saad's an extra 4K if you really want to, but I think I would just play Noah Hanifin for 5,200. So, DJ, what are your thoughts on the Vegas Golden Knights?
It's a really good matchup against Columbus. I feel like you covered it pretty well here. Number one, be very mindful of whatever the lineup is. Luckily, it's a 7 p.m. lock, so you'll have every option still available to you in case anything's unexpected there or changes your mind on anything. But in reality, I think you could probably get away with playing Dorofeev, Hertl, and Hanifin and avoiding spending all your cap on Eichel and Stone. Stone is always a tough click because his floor just is legitimately zero. I know as of late he's been pretty hot, but even in this stretch of 3, 4, 5, 6 points in 3 games, he really only had one kind of needed to have it or could have helped you win a slate type of performance. I don't think you have to do it. I think you just go with Dorofeev, who is the guy that they clearly want shooting on the power play. Rest in peace to my 20-goal Victor Olofsson bet. Hertl, who has been really everything that you could possibly want and more at a price that, even though it's finally gone up enough to make you think, it's still probably not even really enough. I know a Hanifin who's just very clearly a $5,200 defenseman with his current role. He's no Shea Theodore, but he's also not priced like Shea Theodore was at almost 7K. So definitely like it a lot. It's going to be tough to convince me to click on Columbus. Their prices have just risen and risen and risen. You're not ready yet?
Can I just quickly compare the Hanifin and Theodore thing? Looking at the full season, it's not as different as you might think. Obviously, Theodore's better. We're not going to tell you that but the way that Hanifin's played as of late in particular, he looks like a very productive player relative, like compared to Shea Theodore, he's fine, especially for 800 less than Theodore apparently is priced at. I'm pretty sure that's right. Theodore's about 6K before he got hurt. So like Hannafin is like, there's just no dispute in my mind that Hannafin is an actively good play here. I'm very curious to see if this is just onslaughted or not, because of how pricing seemingly got softer on Vegas.
Right. I think ownership is also a factor here. I mean, the implied total from the sportsbook as of recording is got to be the high. I mean, 6.5, and it's minus 166. That puts them right up there, if not the highest implied team total on the slate. So yeah, absolutely going to be involved in the product. Again, like if you're playing Vegas, I think you got to try to get different somewhere else. If you just jam in Vegas, Ottawa 2, and one-off player X, that is going to be, you're not building to win, like I said. And that's the title of this podcast, Build to Win. How to win, but still building to win. I think that's not the way to win. On the other side, though, as I was transitioning us, and you're like, actually, let's talk about Shea Theodore, who's not going to play. Very, very informative stuff, Matt. Thank you as always. We have finally priced up Zach Werenski to almost 8K. He's just slowly 200 every single slate, his way up to 7,800. It was a great play at 7K. It's starting to get more difficult at 7,800. But of course, if you are stacking Columbus, it's hard to avoid. His ceiling is higher than any other defenseman on this slate, I have to assume. There's no Cale Makar, so yep. Not seeing it. I mean, Fantilli's up to 6K. It's, again, like when we talked about Columbus earlier in the year when they were absolutely smashing, it was like, right, they were amazing plays back when they were cheap, but you're going to buy their peak right now. And we're not there. We're certainly still, I think, competitively enough to where it could make sense, but it is starting to get back to that point. I'm almost wondering about this line too. Matthew Olivier, I know we just went up for 2 goals. I don't think that's ever happening again. But could you even look at Jenner and Johnson?
9% of the field played Luke Cunnin yesterday. So far be it for me to say that Matthew Olivier can't be worth a look. Yeah, I mean this pricing on Jenner and Johnson also much softer than before. I really like Adam Fantilli. He's been unreal. I'm literally watching the pass he made on the Marchenko goal like in my dreams. Like preposterous stuff from Fantilli there. So I guess I'm just, again, a Columbus donkey. I tried them on Tuesday. Obviously didn't work, given that was the only goal that Marchenko and Fantilli were a part of. But I think going right back to it is fine. Because really the question is, how do you choose between Fantilli and Hurdle and Dorofeev? And, maybe the answer is you just play all 3 of them in sort of like a game stack. You obviously can play Marchenko, Werenski. Like, it's not hard to fit a game stack of this game on DraftKings. So, when the rainbow chart's pointing me in that direction, when my lizard brain is looking at it like, wow, I really like these prices on all these players, I don't see why you wouldn't at least try looking at a build where you smush, 5 of them together and see if you like it. So, I'm fine with whoever you want to go with, whether it's Jenner, Johnson, Fantilli, Marchenko, but I much prefer the top line personally because I just trusted Adam Fantilli a whole lot more to be productive on a nightly basis than I do Kent Johnson stapled to Matthew Olivier. So, and also at home, Columbus is going to play a ton of Fantilli, Werenski together. Actually, wait, is that something Matt brought up last show? Hold on. Boone Jenner at home, is he getting the matchup minutes now? Is that something Matt made up, or is that true? Maybe we don't have a home game.
We do. I'm pretty sure. You know what? I just Control F CBJ.
Yeah, the last one was on March 1st, so we don't have it.
Yeah, March 1st. I thought Jenner played. Am I stupid?
Oh no, he did.
No.
He did. You're right. Okay. In that
It
game, they
was
still got
Larkin Fantilli. Yep.
Oh, that was his first game though, right? This was
First
the
game.
outdoor
It's
game.
gonna be tough. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I
Yeah.
guess we'll see. That is a fly in the ointment on Columbus stacking. Because it's very possible that Jenner gets the Eichel matchup, in which case he probably also gets Werenski, which means, Jenner, Johnson, Werenski is a whole hell of a lot of fun. I'm not saying that Eichel's a matchup you want to target, but just sort of in the way that like the game flow works and the time on ice is allocated, that would look pretty good for 8,900 for Jenner plus Johnson. So I guess do whatever you want. I'm fine with either on Columbus is where I finally will arrive at. Anything else here, or can we move on?
We can move on. I think again, we're talking about a game with Edmonton and New Jersey that I think is going to be, it's 6.5. Let's start there. It's minus 148. I think a lot of people will circle around it. I wonder how much it gets played. It feels like every single slate, I think to myself, man, Leon came in much less than I thought he was going to. And I think it's just maybe the line 2 of it all. Very throw the lines out the window. Like Leon and McDavid are playing 22, 23 minutes a night. They're going to see time together. They're going to see time with Bouchard. Everything else is a bit ancillary, or maybe not ancillary is not the right word. It's just a bit meaningless, maybe is the word I'm looking for. It feels like the Wallman-Bouchard pairing has opened up Bouchard's game even more. The shot volume for all three of the McDavid, Draisaitl, and Bouchard over the last very few games in this sample size, of course, because Wallman's only been there for a couple, have been awesome. Like, it just feels like this team is creating a lot more opportunity. Now, they have been trailing in games, which is, of course, going to lead to that. You play the Buffalo Sabres and you lose to them, there is probably going to be a lot of shots to be had against them because they're not good. So that's another factor in this as well.
Hold on just a second. You're saying the Buffalo Sabres aren't good. Show your work.
I'm a liar who lies. All right. I'm going to start there. But over the last 5 games, just, including probably at least one in the mix that maybe wouldn't matter for this, but McDavid has 8.5 shot attempts per game. Bouchard has 8.25 shot attempts per game. Leon has 7.75 shot attempt per game. And you know what? Why not? Zach Hyman, 6.75 shot attempts per game. Like, all of these guys are getting a ton of opportunity on a team in Edmonton that really just hasn't played that well against a New Jersey team who we talked about. Like, people might target them, maybe not, but people really haven't. I don't know if people are going to be afraid again to go against them, but they haven't been terrible without Jack Hughes and Dougie Hamilton. Maybe that's going to happen. It should happen. It feels like this team should be much worse without them, and it just hasn't really switched over yet. All of this to say, I'm incredibly interested in Leon Draisaitl. I'm incredibly interested in Devin Bouchard. And frankly, I think we just have to say for 500 more, McDavid it just has to be in play here. I know that we've been sort of like, why play McDavid when you can play Draisaitl? I'm trying to find a lineup that builds in both of them. You're not getting Hyman in that mix, and it kind of feels like maybe you could just go with the Hyman McDavid we've talked about in the past as well. But I do think Edmonton is, I don't think sneaky, never sneaky. I just think that it's not going to be as owned as other slates that Edmonton has been on, even though the matchup really isn't that bad. Is that the proper way of saying that, English?
Sure. One of my takeaways, though, from the Tuesday slate was that I actually thought Columbus was a little bit higher owned than I thought they would be. Maybe I'm just wrong. That's possible. But they were something like 6 or 7% for Fantilli Marchenko, and the Timo Hischier pairing was 9-10%. I thought that would be closer to something like 4%, 12%. So does that mean the field is automatically like factoring in the New Jersey defensive injuries and like accounting accordingly? Of course not. It doesn't mean that for sure, but at least it makes me pause a little bit to say that people are treating New Jersey as if they're, whatever, as good as X numbers, season long numbers are saying they are. So I at least want to be cognizant of the fact that Edmonton could be pretty owned in light of that, especially on this slate. Matthews is in a difficult matchup. Pasta's kind of in a tough matchup. There might even be no Kucherov. You're kind of looking at, McDry as your two superstar, like great spots of the night. So yeah, I mean, you pull the string in my back and I repeat, if you don't play Leon Draisaitl on Edmonton, you're a fish. Because I just firmly believe that he's continued his unbelievable run. The team is now just trying to get him to score goals, like, 2-on-1s, empty nets. Like, it's just, if Leon doesn't score it, it's not worth anything. Given he's running away with the Rocket Richard, not a bad strategy either, but I think it's very worthwhile to consider if you're clicking in McDavid plus Hyman. Like, at some point, you just got to realize, what am I doing? So, doesn't mean you have to do it, but I think if you are playing Edmonton, you should be playing Leon Draisaitl. I don't really care about Bouchard, Wallman. I'm not super entranced by their trends. Obviously, a lot of this Wallman stuff is San Jose based, where he was the only guy. He's been good in these couple games in Edmonton for sure, but like you mentioned, like the game script, the trailing nature, like not things that you really want to recreate when you are stacking Edmonton, for example. So, like, you would like it if Draisaitl scored twice and they were winning 3-1, so that Draisaitl could go for the empty net hat trick. Like, you don't want them to be trailing, 4-1 and have to be shooting the entire time if you're playing Wallman and Bouchard, because you're just not getting the fantasy points. So down the lineup, of course, there's no interest. Anything else before we get to New Jersey? Actually, for the audio listeners, lines Arvidsson, Draisaitl, Skinner. If you're looking for the sneaky Edmonton 2, like, it's Skinner, not Podkolzin there. That's at least moderately interesting. Janmark is a game time decision, so could he slot in for Skinner? Maybe, but I don't think that'll be the case.
Yeah, I guess I was just going to say, like, taking a look at a couple of road games quickly of the defensive pairings, it kind of just feels like McDavid, Draisaitl, Hyman, and whoever's out there when Draisaitl's out there, whether it be Skinner and Arba, whatever. It's like pretty universally the Nurse, Kulak, or Bouchard, Wallman pairing. I don't know if it makes a massive difference to them. It's probably more of how they can match up against and swap and things. So I think you could get away with just Draisaitl, Bouchard and be totally fine there. So, okay, we can move on. Down to the final 3 games. After we talk about New Jersey, New Jersey's going to play. New Jersey's going to play. We have to start by saying that is a fact. They are playing in New Jersey, as a matter of fact, named after the New Jersey Devil. It's a cryptic cryptic, you know what I mean? I think I've talked about this before. A real thing people believe exists. Speaking of which, I will not be playing New Jersey. Luke Hughes has been really good. Other than that, it kind of feels like a very messy mud pie of a lineup that I'm just not going to try to figure out.
Yeah, they did jumble things before their last game. Howla Glass, Jesper Bratt was the nominal top line. Of course, Timo, Heischer, and Nason is their actual top line as far as usage is concerned. Palat, Mercer, Tatar, and Dowling was our Cotter. Mercer was on the top power play, and obviously Bratt's on the top power play. Timo and Heischer are the only correlated pairing. They are 13.1 thousand combined, and they're fine. They scored about 40 points on Tuesday. Again, enough to be part of the GPP winner in the 555. So does that garner any attention? I don't know, maybe. But in general, it's just they're good players and maybe a good spot, but
I don't think it's that good of a spot. I mean, pull up the chart. I mean, it's going to be kind of tough. Like we're saying, Edmonton's been trailing and shooting and putting the best players in the world on the ice for more than normal, which doesn't help the other team. It's shocking, the result there. But I think the problem is this game just doesn't have a ton of pace to it. And I think you're fine to fade it, but honestly, I think at the end of the day, I think there's a very high % chance that I end up with Draisaitl and Bouchard in my lineup. Bouchard just feels too cheap. I don't think you need to bring it back. Like you're kind of alluding to, Edmonton can get there by just one of their guys, like Leon, for example, going crazy, and then the empty net situation kind of gets you over the edge of, well, I'm cashing to, oh my God, I have a chance to win it all. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think you need to play New Jersey. I think there's better options for cheaper than Timo Hischier. I think if you are that into Timo and Nico, like 4 or 5 and Hurdle are probably just better. And that savings off of Timo and Hischier isn't a ton, but probably enough to get you to Hannafin over Luke Hughes, who's just probably a better play. And like, I think Luke Hughes is a really good play in a vacuum. I just don't know. Again, the stack just doesn't feel like it has enough upside to me.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty much there too. The only thing I just looked at, the Timo Hischier Nason line was paired with the Kovacevic Dumoulin line as far as being a shutdown unit. So obviously that'll go out against the McDavid line. If you're, depending on how your mileage varies for this Hughes and Pesci pairing, like that's what should get the Draisaitl line. To me, that's like a much higher event atmosphere. Maybe what it looks like they pretty much shared Mercer and Bratt as far as like power play 1 stacks go, but maybe a mini stack of Bratt plus Luke Hughes could be a way to sort of like funnel in some game stack nature, because obviously if you're playing Edmonton, you probably can't afford Timo plus Hischier, but you almost certainly can afford a 5,500 Jesper Bratt or 4,400 Dawson Mercer to go with Luke Hughes. So just some food for thought for the game stackers out there. Let's get to the Rangers at Minnesota. Minnesota shutting down Nathan MacKinnon, the worst player in NHL history, Nate MacKinnon, as some DFS players from Tuesday are calling him. And now they get the Rangers, who can't score on anyone. So how do you see this matchup playing out there, DJ?
I feel like this is probably how do I want to word this? So far, I feel like I've struggled to put the best words into action here. My problem with this game is I feel like there's going to be like no ownership on this game. And in reality, the sports books aren't saying that this game is really any less or more likely than almost any other game to be a higher scoring title. 5.5 minus 120, a dead pick 'em. Who could, who knows about who's going to score, who's going to do this, that. The Rangers are not where I'm going to go. It feels very difficult for me to find exactly how to stack the Rangers to success, being as it has to, in my opinion, come through Panarin. And unfortunately, Panarin's not quite doing enough to get there on his own, and both his line mates are not on the top power play with him. So I probably end up just not doing it. Unless there's a way to stack the Rangers I'm not seeing right now. Defensively, if you're looking for a punt defender on the slate, there's got to be something on this Rangers team.
Sorry to cut you off, DJ. 6,700 Mika Zibanejad doesn't do it for you? It doesn't just make it move against on the road in Minnesota?
Completely flaccid by that. Yeah, no, absolutely not. I mean, that's the problem here. It's like, how do you win this slate, right? Like, you're sitting here like, how do you do it, right? How do I win this slate? And if you're telling me that playing Mika Zibanejad at the same price as Brandon Hagel, again, it's just really hard for me to find
700 more than Fantilli, 600 more than Tomas Hertl. Like, what the fuck?
800 more than Michkov? I think maybe
way more than that, like 1,100 more.
1,100? Wait, I don't know why I thought he was 50. Yeah, 56. 56. 11. I thought it was 58. Okay. No, I mean, it's like you find, or maybe I thought it was 59. That doesn't know, 58, whatever. Doesn't matter. Math doesn't matter. What matters is that this Rangers team is also this sort of disaster to put together and build a good lineup. And like, I feel like people are going to try to convince themselves to play Zach Jones, who just hasn't really shown it from a DFS perspective. I mean, the price is right. If you're playing the Rangers, absolutely, like no issue. But like, don't one-off this guy who is, it just feels incredibly fragile that he's going to. What?
I don't know. 3,100 for a power play 1 defenseman is always going to be in play. I think he deserves a little more credit than you're giving him. I would like to filter it by the games where he's been power play 1. I'm not going to do that live though. But like, especially Minnesota, the D funnel of all D funnels. Like, if the guy's going to hit a shots bonus,
I thought you were the D funnel of all D funnels. But
Oh shit, you got me, folks.
yeah, I at the end of the day, this is what I want to do. This is what if you're listening out there, Laviolette, just put Panarin and JT Miller together tomorrow. I don't care who the other winger is, and honestly, if it was Zibanejad, that's the only way I'd consider him. If it's all together. But right now, with Panarin not playing 5-on-5 minutes with Zibanejad and JT Miller, I couldn't click the buttons. There's no way. And if that's the case, I'm out. And I am interested in this Minnesota side. I feel like the Rangers are bad. So I'm ready to talk about them when you're ready, but you seem to be looking up things. So is there anything else you want to add to the mix here?
I was fixing the Lafreniere name because, my God, should the Rangers have traded Lafreniere at the trade deadline? Last 10 games.
Nothing.
Last 10 games, yeah. Lafreniere has played 162 minutes, and he has got 7 shots on goal, 4 assists, and no goals to show for it.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you
DraftKings points per game.
I'm going to ask you a really weird question, and I know at this point in the season, we've seen enough of him with enough power play run that I feel like he just should have gotten there in best puck and shit. But man, I know now the role's gone, but it's just there's just nothing to even think about. I mean, this guy just doesn't have it, I guess.
Yeah, they should have kept Capo Caco.
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, it's really rough. I don't know. I mean, if you're a Rangers fan, I would say I feel bad for you, but as a Sabres fan, I feel bad for nobody but myself. Yikes. Yeah, I'm probably unplayable. Trocheck as well. I mean, glued to Panarin's line. I don't think he scored in an enormous number of games.
His finger is broken. It is hard to shoot hockey pucks with a broken finger. Hey, let's give him Artemi Panarin and just waste Panarin. All right, cool.
Yeah,
good idea.
February the 7th was the last time he scored. I know there was a break in the mix, but 17 goals on the year, not great. I think you could just not play the Rangers and be okay. I do still respect this Minnesota team. Hot take?
Yeah, hot take for sure.
I feel like the Minnesota one has been a kind of a comfy click for me as of late. And in this matchup, I'm not afraid to go back to, again, I was pretty high on Winnipeg. Like I said, probably one of my favorites. What were you going to
say? Perfectly correlated now too. Boldy, Rossi, right. Zuccarello, 17.2K. So yeah, comfy click there, DJ.
It's an easy, comfy click, but I don't think many people are going to make it. It's just there's a lot of good options we've already mentioned. There's a lot of chalk to go around.
Write that down, folks.
What? Comfy click or
DJ sneaky stack of the night.
This is probably honestly this is the sneaky stack of the night. I don't know. Now that I've said it, it's going to be 14%. I mean, do you think I'm wrong by saying that? First off, do you think I'm stupid for saying that Minnesota won against the Rangers is going to be a sneaky stack? Is that stupid?
I mean, on its face, I don't think that's wrong. Minnesota is not a hefty favorite here either, so they're going to be carrying a 2.8, 2.9 total into this one.
A dead pick 'em. A dead pick 'em.
But when you're running projections, how much of the entire Minnesota offense comes through Matt Boldy, Zuccarello, and Marco Rossi? The answer has to be, more than any other top line in the NHL. So that is the one thing that concerns me. It's is it so concentrated? Is it so comfy that the projection systems are even going to be this Minnesota team sucks, but this top line is fire. And everyone goes, wow, what a great idea. The Rangers suck. And you can play Hinostroza or Brock Faber in place of, Zuccarello and save money. And it's oh my God, and then all of a sudden you're looking at DJ plays a Boldy Rossi at 15% and 19% owned Matt Zuccarello goes for 28, and DJ's on here Tuesday saying, well, you see, when you stack, you just got to have balls and, go all the way.
Yeah,
all that stuff. So
if gun to head right now, my lineup is Holloway, Kyrou, Boldy, Rossi, Zuccarello, and I guess I have to say Cam Fowler. I'm never clicking this Brock Faber button at 4,700. You'd have to be insane. No, don't do it. It's a bad idea. Is there anyone else on Minnesota that you're interested in? I know we've probably been the only people in the history of the world to talk about Frederick Gaudreau being in play, but is it just too far down the line in this game for you to say Frederick Gaudreau is in play?
I think it's too far down the line to say Freddie's in play. Marcus Johansson, though, continues to put up shot attempts and be generally involved. It looks like last game he took off from doing that, but let me see if I can pull him up. Because over the weekend he was popping like crazy for me before that Pittsburgh game. That was very sad. Of course, yeah. Over the last 10 games, he has 47 shot attempts. I'm not sure that there's ever been a 10-game span for Marcus Johansson where he's done that. So, like, that was the only thing that was mildly interesting. I also noticed with the goalie pulled, he was on the ice multiple times now. So, yeah, Marcus Johansson, by the way, is 3,100. The only reason that even warrants a mention, because he's very, very cheap. Matt Boldy, though, at 7,100 is one of the best values on the entire slate, I would argue.
Absolutely.
So, DJ, I'm right there with you. Minnesota 1 is of high interest.
Okay, then we can get to the final two games of the night. Both of them, I think, carry interest on both sides for multiple reasons.
Yeah,
the cover boy of what?
Go ahead, tee it up.
The cover boy Pierre-Luc Dubois returns to Los Angeles, where he was. I think they would have traded him for a bag of hockey pucks. They get Darcy Kemper at least to maybe save a little bit of face. He comes in on an absolute tear, on a roll, on a mission. He won last slate, as we mentioned at the start of the show, with his world-class line mate, Alexei Protas, and maybe the best Connor in the world, Connor McMichael. They are a whopping $0.00, I believe, is the exact price tag on that whole line together. We also have the top line of Mr. Alexander Ovechkin doing everything you could want and more from a fantasy perspective and getting every opportunity to get there. If the game has any ability to allow him to, with Dylan Strome and Tom Wilson perfectly power play correlated. Mr. Matt Moody, are people going to play Washington?
Okay, so hear me out. The Washington Capitals' second line of McMichael, Dubois, and Protas scored 89 fantasy points on Tuesday night at a price tag of $16,200 on DraftKings. DraftKings, in their eternal wisdom, said, Washington now is playing Los Angeles Kings. This Washington second line, they're going to be costing you $14.2K, $2,000 less than last slate where they put up 90 fucking DraftKings points. I don't know about you. I feel like people click on Washington too.
That rhymed. So pretty good. The matchup does look good on its face, I think, here for Washington as well. Not that you needed much more convincing to say it's in play, but of course it's in play, right? I mean, this slate just sets up so nicely to have like three lower middle tier, like we're saying, with Washington 2 probably being the forefront of the middle lower tier, but we already mentioned Ottawa. I mentioned, like, kind of put my hat in the ring on St. Louis as well. I think some people will get on a little bit of that Philly. Like, there's some lower middle tier stacks to afford things around it. So I keep that in mind when you're building. Like, that is probably going to be a popular way of building, is within that vacuum. But it kind of makes me just want to say, fuck it, dog, Ovi, Strome, Wilson. Let's go.
Yeah, 19K, perfectly correlated. No real issues there. John Carlson's also moderately interesting, just 5,400. But yeah, obviously Ovi's the star of the show here. The matchup itself obviously does not look great because this LA team is pretty solid. But it's not a terrible matchup from any respect.
I think the pace looks good because LA has taken so many penalties lately. I thought that was something that they had a lot of
the shot attempt. So that is a worthwhile call out. The shot attempts pace here, 124, for each team combined. The next closest game is Vegas Columbus at 118. Every other game is 115 or lower. So that 124 mark on this game is pretty high. This is only considering 5-on-5 play as well. So like power plays are not, like, shorthanded and power play times not even being considered here, and it's all per minute. So like we're not really dealing with anything to that regard. So if you're aware of, these teams are taking a ton of penalties, there's going to be a ton of special teams time, that's almost like a double reason to attack this game. So
I'll look into that more. I thought
I'm
these are a
not
couple of the games stood out that.
Yeah, I'm not super into the Washington side, but again, Ovi as a one-off is always in play. And I think I do have some pretty strong interest in this Kings side. The top line for the Kings, the AK-47s, didn't break the slate against the Islanders, but they played a bunch. They stayed power play correlated. I think running them back for 15.5K makes a ton of sense. If you want to play Kevin Fiala or, well, I guess if you want to play Kevin Fiala, he's 6,100. That price tag's also fine by me. But any interest in the Kings from you?
Yes. I think short answer, yes. I do have to just say it's probably the top line or nothing. Maybe you could convince me as a one-off Fiala guy. Probably it. I don't think I'm going to Drew Doughty, who continues to be on the top power play, even though he's substantially worse at it than Brant Clark. Clark just not getting the run, 3,300. Is there any interest in 3,300 Clark?
No, you just can't make the minutes work. It sucks, but it is what it is.
You don't like to see it. He did see a decent bit of run with the AK line went out there, though. Like, it seems like there was a concerted effort that like the Kopitar line would go out there with Clark. But that was in very limited run and probably, like I said, intentional.
Look, you're not going to have to try hard to get me to be like, oh, well, actually, Brant Clark is super sneaky. Turns out when Adrian Kempe's on the ice with Brant Clark, it's literally the Edmonton Oilers with McDavid and Draisaitl. Like, I mean, statistically, over hundreds of minutes together. I think we have like 200 something minutes of that, like duo basically, but obviously it includes Kopitar for the most part, whatever. But just when you isolate minutes with both Kempe and Clark at 5-on-5, they score at like a 4.7 goals per 60 rate. So yeah,
seems good.
I cannot do it with Brant Clark in particular, but like on my death's door, I'm gonna say don't do it, but like, whatever. I like the AKs, all good for me.
Yep.
And nothing else for me down the lineup, like no Trevor Moore garbage or anything like that.
We can get to the final game of the night, the race to the bottom, the two dead last place teams. The Sabres are trying to fight for that position themselves, but they're not quite going to get there. The Chicago Blackhawks go into San Jose. Now, I said this to my buddy the other day, talking on the phone. I was like, what's crazy is that like Chicago's ahead of San Jose in the standings. And I feel like every hardcore hockey fan would no one would even blink twice. Like, I would rather be a San Jose fan than a Chicago Blackhawks fan. I'd rather have this San Jose roster than this Chicago roster, right? Like, it feels like just because of the failure that existed this season with Chicago just taking absolutely no step forward at all. But in this game, in reality here, I think that you could reasonably say Chicago is a better team, at least has played, I'd say, totally fine as of late. They're not good. I mean, but like for their standards, I think they've been fine. Bedard's been shooting again. But in reality, we're looking at a minimum salary defenseman that I don't think will get incredibly overlooked. But the second overall pick, Artem Levshinov, he's looking the part early on. I'm not, I don't want to gush and glow too much, but he got the top power play run.
No, he actually didn't. I saw he got some. He got a very small sliver of their 5-on-3 power play for some reason, and he had such a good chance that I thought it would. I have no idea what happened here though. It was 5-on-3. Vlasic's on the ice for most of it. He gets off for like 15 seconds. Levshinov comes on. He gets the opportunity that I'm remembering because he didn't score on it. And then out comes Vlasic again to close it. Like, I don't know what happened there. So it does seem like Vlasic held that top power play job all game though. So anyway, though.
Well, okay. So maybe not power play one, but I still could get some run. Did have a lot of attempts in that game. It seems like a useful young player that's, again, number 2 overall pick. They're kind of taking their time getting him in. Bedard hasn't done much of anything to make as far as the actual like goals and assists will show you, but he's shooting again. I mean, 2 of the last 3 games, he's hit the shots bonus. The minutes are astronomical. I think that it's going to come. What better matchup than against the San Jose Sharks? I kind of like the Chicago team maybe more than meets the eye is what I'm getting to. They're really hard to stack, but I think you could just play Levshunov and Bedard. I really do. Call me crazy.
Yeah. I don't know. I kind of feel like I just want to fade this game entirely because like
this is truly the hee haw hoedown. This is
yeah.
This isn't the palace. This is an entire country of donkeys getting together. This is the donkey conference, international bound. This is everything and more. Like and I think people are just. I mean, I can hear the stampede of heeing and hawing for this 6.5 dead pick'em from here. Like, there's going to be ownership that's going to come along here. I just think a lot of it's going to come in on San Jose.
Yep. I'm with you there. I think San Jose gets a substantial amount of ownership. The prices on Chicago maybe serve to keep some people away. Like Doc and Dickinson don't do it with Bedard. So like maybe that all just stands to keep it low. I just don't know what I'm really missing out on. Like, is Connor Bedard going to put up 40 here and bury me? Like, it just feels so unlikely that I'll just play elsewhere.
What did I say to start the slate while you were busy fixing Chicago's lines? To have balls. What did we say at the beginning of the season? What did we say? We talked about Connor Bedard with glowing review. I actually thought he was going to take a massive step forward. Has he? No.
Look what he's done this year and look who his line mates are. Like, is that changing in the last 2 months of the year? Or is that changing in the last month of the year now? I don't think so. So you're talking about a fundamentally average producer for fantasy on a line with Colton Dock and Jason Dickinson. Yeah, it's against the Sharks, but I can't get there myself. Levshunov is an option at 2,500. He shot a boatload in the AHL before being called up. His NCAA numbers don't look fantastic, like index and whatnot, but his AHL production was pretty strong. Obviously, the second overall pick too. So like, I think that's fine to take a flyer on. Alec Martinez got hurt last game, though, so the minutes were all pretty inflated, like almost immediately. So I'm not sure what to expect minutes-wise for Levshunov and whether he's actually a good play or just like a late slate good punt. So I don't know, DJ, I'm struggling on this game. I don't think I can do it myself, but I respect what you're saying about being brave and whatnot. I think I'll just be brave elsewhere on the slate.
Well, that's brave of you to admit. We can get to the San Jose Sharks as they are going back to, I guess, the optimal path for them. Eklund, Celebrini, Toffoli, all power play 1 correlated. It is a 5-man forward unit with Will Smith and Alexander Wemberg. Their defensemen have all been priced up a little bit as if DraftKings is saying, well, one of these guys is going to be in the top power play, but they're just simply not. You could probably avoid the whole batch of them. Say, who cares? I think that the Celebrini Eklund Toffoli line is going to get ownership, and it probably should just because of how good Celebrini's been. I like it a lot. I like it probably more than I'm not going to say significant, but a fair amount of other stacks that people are also going to click on. In my opinion, I'm game stacking. Like, I'm playing Bedard on the other side. I feel like that's just the way I'm looking at this game, but you can talk me off of that.
I don't even really want to talk you off it. Like, I just want to say, reminder that this is the San Jose Sharks and the line costs $18,500. If you're fighting any sort of ownership here, like, good luck.
They're all wingers. Celebrini's he's a center. Okay, what did I just do wrong? Oh no, he's a center. Okay, never mind. I was going to be wrong. I don't know what just happened. I think he just went into my utility and I got confused because that's how stupid I am at this point.
The other problem is you don't get any good defensemen that go with it. Like, you're just out of option. Like, there's no way to play a San Jose stack and be like, well, I also save a little bit of money by doing, X thing. And like, yeah, it's 18,500. Like, it's not a bargain in my opinion. So that's sort of where my hesitation comes in.
Yeah.
But hey, it's
That
Chicago. Whatever. Who knows?
Minnesota's cheaper. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
I don't know. I
I don't
don't
know.
feel great about this.
This is an interesting slate. I mean, really, there's. I feel like, to give my recap, I think a lot of people are going to take one of these, San Jose, maybe Minnesota, to a lesser extent, probably. That Vegas too is probably going to be another one, really popular, and they're just going to pair that with Ottawa too. They're going to pair that with, I'll throw New Jersey one in that mix as well. Pair that with Ottawa too. Pair that with, what was the other cheaper? Washington too. That's the one I'm thinking of. Like, those are going to be kind of the popular ways of doing things to get as much correlation as possible in decent matchups. I'm going to try to get away from that as much as possible. Like I said, I think that my top stacks, I'm just going to say right now, even though I do think it'll be somewhat popular, are Minnesota 1 and the St. Louis 2, if you will, the Cairo. My God, I keep wanting to say Hyman. Holy crap. Holloway connection. That's probably what I'm looking at right now. I think that's getting a little bit away from the ownership that I'd like to avoid.
All right. Give me Tomas Hertl, Dorofeyev, and Hanifin for my first top stack. And I will go with Couturier, Michkov, and Owen Tippett for my second.
Okay. Let's erase what we did whenever we recorded last, because I believe we were both 1 for 2 on the guaranteed goals, if I recall correctly. But let's go 2 for 2, each of us, on this slate. Do you have a guaranteed goal in mind? I went both of my stacks first, so you can certainly go first on the guaranteed goals if you have one.
I'm going to go Adrian Kempe, 6,200 guaranteed goal.
Kempe, $6,200, if you will. I will go. You know what? Let me actually pull up the slate again because I'm not looking at pricing. Give me. Oh boy. You took Kempe. I was about to say boldly, and I literally just went over in great detail how much I liked him in my stack. Good guarantee goal call if it wasn't. You know what? Actually, I'm going to actually have balls. Give me Connor Bedard. Connor Bedard is shooting. He's getting incredibly unlucky. He's playing a ton of minutes, and he's playing the fucking San Jose Sharks, and people just aren't going to click on it.
Okay. I am going to keep it simple and go Mackie Samoskevich for my second. I could go a bit bolder and go Boone Jenner, but I'm gonna stick to the Mackie. Just now that we've gone over all the donkey ways to build, I don't think Florida 2 gets ownership here against Toronto on the road. So give me Samoskevich. I really like Florida here to take advantage of some lackluster play by Toronto in recent weeks.
I think that, yeah, I mean that's the easiest click in the world on this kind of slate. Man, you know what? I simply don't know. I have one that I'm probably going to say. It's going to look for another second to see if anyone else stands out. Now, I think it's Bjorkstrand. I mean, I know we just burned the entire DFS. Yep. 36% of people punched air, but like, he should still be in the Steven Stamkos spot on the top power play, whether Kucherov plays or not. If Kucherov doesn't play, maybe even gets a little bit more run on that top line. And people are, I mean, and then the DFS wise, maybe I'm here nor there on it, but like from a purely what's his goal scoring odds going to be, like that's the guy they want shooting the puck on the power play. We were running Darren freaking Radish to score in the same type of position. So definitely give me a guy that I know can score. I think Bjorkstrand's the obvious take in that position.
All right. That's all well and good. So just a couple things from me. Make sure you check out my newsletter recapping the Tuesday slate. Subscribe to it. You will have Zamboni content heading your way, I believe sometime tomorrow or Friday. And also over the next few weeks, we will try to mix in a couple Zamboni streams. Obviously, as we get closer to the playoffs, it'll be much more interesting to draft. We'll have a better sense of matchups and everything else. And so stay tuned if you're interested in that side of the fantasy hockey space. But yeah, anything else from you, DJ?
No, just there'll be bets tomorrow. There'll be plenty of them to be had. Been a bit up and down as it kind of always is in the betting space. I think some of the just, I guess, again, just kind of reviewing my process and things, and not much has changed, but the games kind of after the break were just very, very up tempo, and you start to read maybe into that a little too much, and all of a sudden when tempo starts to disappear as time goes on, it can hurt you a little bit more. But I think attacks maybe just less of the insane stuff because the heater kind of subsided. But Wednesday night's going well so far, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm getting absolutely fucking murdered. So I will go off and cry. But thank you all for hanging out with us. Best of luck on the Thursday slate. Best of luck at the Players Championship too. A big golf slate locks in the morning. So yeah, that'll do it from us. Once again, thank you all for listening. From Doug, from DJ, from myself, have a good slate, everybody, and we will see ya.